Blazer fans, welcome to another episode of the Blazer Victory Podcast, episode number 34. This is your co-host, John Duncan, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Steve Irvine. And Steve, buddy, we have a lot of UAB football spring practice to discuss. I believe UAB just had their first scrimmage, and Steve, you were one of the lucky ones to be able to attend and get to see the guys in action in their first scrimmage. But how are you doing today, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Just it was pleasure or fun to be out there and watch this group. Close scrimmage. Coach Clark was kind enough to let me come out and watch. He's always been really good to me. Let me do that. As long as I don't share a lot of of exactly what happened.
Right.
So I can't share specifics of what happened, but I will say this: this is a good football team, and it wasn't. They're not entirely healthy right now, like any spring. I mean, it's not different than any other spring. There's some guys that are out with, getting things fixed from last year, and
Right.
a few might have got banged up a little bit in the first part of spring practice. But I just really liked what I saw. I think that. Defensively, I think the numbers. There's a lot of depth on that defense, and there's some offensive depth to it. At some of the positions. So where you can't get too excited or too worried about what happens in spring practice. There's a long way to go for things to happen. But at this point, I walked away from that scrimmage yesterday saying, I like where they're at right now.
Good. And definitely, it's easy to, overreact or, to just one scrimmage. And we do, have to keep in mind that, it was just the first scrimmage. They'll have another one, then they'll have the spring game. So, and 15 more practices. So it's a long way left for spring practice for UAB, but definitely good to hear that overall you're liking what you're seeing and just that next step towards defending that championship trophy for the 2021 season. Before we go into the specifics of the actual spring game that you got to see, Steve, UAB did officially announce a week ago that Chris Mole is actually going to be moving from linebacker back to safety. And I want to get your thoughts on that, Steve. But I'm thinking that that's great for Chris Mole to him, to get to play that safety position because he's a hell of a player. We know, we both know that. Blazer fans know that. But I think him going to that safety role is going to help him to maybe, get a spot in the NFL at a safety position with a team.
Yeah, I mean, I think absolutely. And I think one thing that does it really shows is going to show NFL scouts and NFL teams, his versatility. I mean, here's a guy who,
Yes.
Was a high school linebacker and played safety and really special teams as a true freshman. But then, played the star role, which is kind of an outside or which is kind of a hybrid. It's really a nickelback type position. Then he goes to, the linebacker, inside linebacker, and he excelled at everywhere he's been. So if he excels at safety too, that just shows his versatility, and he will excel. I mean, he will. I will say this: that safety position is good. Now,
Watch out.
He's not going into a position that he's not going over there because there's no talent there. You're talking, 5, 6, 7 guys deep that are really, really, really good players and so much experience there. I mean, you got basically 3 starters returning with, 4 if you count Dijon Turner as a star linebacker, nickelback, safety type position. But then, you have Damon Miller who took over for when Grayson Cash had, the injury and illness problems. And then, Will Bowler, who's going to basically is going to be a 3-year starter. Mm-hmm. So really you have 3 guys in Cash, Damon Miller, and Bowler who you could say were starters last year. And, then, Damian Miller coming back from his injury, I think he's going to be able to contribute. And, then of course, Dijon Turner, who to me, when they announced or when they said that Chris Moll was moving back to safety, I'm thinking I thought that meant that he was going to kind of really go to the star linebacker again, and they just call it safety. But he's not, because the star linebacker is going to be Dijon Turner, and I'm thinking,
Right.
well, to me, other than Jordan Smith maybe, and Chris Moll and Dijon Turner were the two best defenders last year. I mean, I thought,
Yeah.
and so I thought, you're going to put the same two guys at the star linebacker, but they're not. I mean, it'll be, so Moll's going to be more of a, he's going to be a safety, and Dijon will stay at the star linebacker, at least at this point. I mean, and that's what's great about spring practice. I mean, you can move guys. You can try guys here and try guys there, and if it doesn't work out, well, on August 1, August 2, whatever day they start, they can go back to the position they were, and they'll be fine. But I mean, that's not going to happen with Chris Moll. I mean, he's going to be a safety, and so I love what they have at safety right now. I mean, it's I don't see anybody in this conference that has the depth of safeties that they have. I mean, there's some great safeties in this conference. Rashad Wisdom.
Oh yeah.
He might be the preseason defensive MVP when you think about it, and they've got some other good safeties there at UTSA, but I don't think anybody has the quality depth that UAB is going to have at the safety position this year. So that's exciting.
Oh yeah, agreed. And also, another guy, Steve, that we bring in from Arizona, Troy Young, he's at the safety position too. So that's going to be really good. Just adds more depth to it.
Well, they moved in a cornerback, and I think that shows. Okay. Yeah, and I think that shows where how good they are at safety, and I think it shows his versatility, because I think he's going to be a guy who has a chance to start at cornerback. I mean, it's going to be a heck of a competition at cornerback, but he's going to be a guy that has the talent to win a spot at corner, and so that shows you a little bit where what they think about their safety position and what they think about him. But he's as of now he's playing corner, and so he's excited. He's another guy that you got to be really excited about.
Yes. Well, let's go ahead and switch over and talk about the offensive side of the ball. Now, UAB did make a couple of statements about the first spring game, about the first spring scrimmage. They did state that Dwayne McBride was able to get two rushing touchdowns, which is great to hear. And Samaria Rudolph, Ryan Davis, Lucia Stanley, Terrell McDonald each got a receiving touchdown. But I know, Steve, we talked a little bit before recording, but tell us a little about how Ryan Davis stood out to you and how he looked.
Oh, I think the first thing about Ryan Davis that stands out to me is just how much more, how much he's grown physically, and here's a guy who came in, he was a really good baseball player in high school, and kind of was his thing. I mean, he was a really good football player too, but coach was telling me after the scrimmage when we were talking about Ryan Davis that he's never really got to work out in off season in high school, because he was always playing baseball, and in the strides he's made physically. He's not a big guy, and comparatively,
right.
But I mean, this is a guy who's really transformed his body, and is just he's fast, he's very quick, and the one thing that I like about him, and I've seen this in plenty of practices and saw a little bit yesterday, but his first step or his first move after making a catch is just tremendous. I mean, he's one of those guys that catches it and boom, he's got the quickness, and he picks up speed really fast. So he's just a guy who's really has grown into the role now, and he showed some flashes last year. He made a great catch against Louisiana along the home sideline there for about 25 yards, really went up and got the ball. And I think he caught 3 balls maybe all year. But, he was also a guy that missed that Rice and Marshall game for COVID reasons, tracing reasons.
Right.
And honestly, he probably would have been the guy that had the chance over Samaria Rudolph. I mean, he probably would have been the guy playing that position. But in hindsight, I hate it for Ryan Davis, but I'm glad that it worked out the way it did, because then all of a sudden now Rudolph's in the picture, and now Ryan Davis also is in the picture, and so.
Right.
But I mean, I really think Ryan Davis is poised to do some big things, and again, I think, physically he's just a different guy, than he was certainly a couple years ago when he came in.
Right.
And so, I think that I think they're excited about where he is right now.
Right. And that's definitely great to hear, because, wide receiver was just one of those positions that, I guess worry is a bad word to say. Like, we were worried about the position with Myron Mitchell leaving and Austin Watkins leaving. But it's great to see Ron Davis and, Samara Rudolph and, Shropshire during that Marshall game really took off. It's great to see, him do well. But it's great to see, Ron Davis kind of emerging as maybe one of the top guys on that wide receiver unit.
Yeah, I mean, he potentially could be. I mean, I think right now he is, and we'll see, and I think that sometimes, not worry, but just it's just it's severe the unknown,
Yeah, right.
I mean,
That's
going into this last year, or you knew you had two NFL quality or capable receivers,
right.
and you knew where it's going to happen. You didn't really know what the other number, who else was going to step up, but in a way you went, who cares? I mean,
Yeah.
we'll find somebody. Now you don't have that on paper. You have Shropshire coming off a tremendous championship game, and he showed his ability. He's going to have to do it consistently,
Yes.
all year long. But what you lose sight of a little bit is there's different ways to skin a cat. I mean,
Right.
you worry about wide receivers, but you can't forget you got Hayden Pittman, you got Garrett Prince, you got Terrell McDonald, who had a touchdown catch yesterday, and you got Malik Bryant. So you got some really good athletic type tight ends that you can do different things with. I mean, Garrett Prince was a junior college receiver, slot guy. Hayden Pittman's shown the ability to get downfield and catch the ball. Malik Bryant, didn't really get a chance to show it last year, but I think he will this year. Terrell McDonald's a great athlete. I mean, so there's different ways. And then you got, coming out of the backfield, you have some options. And Jermaine Brown is right now is playing slot receiver and probably will stay there. So you've got him as another guy. You have if Worleen Pollock can stay healthy, he's a guy that maybe you can get the ball out of the backfield, swing the ball to him, because we've never got a chance to see him in person, really in a game, because injuries have really hurt him. But everything
Right.
I hear about him from the coaching staff was, boy, you get him in open space, you get him, one-on-one in the flat, swinging the ball, and he's dangerous, and he's fast. And so, maybe that becomes a part of the game. Maybe, maybe Dwayne McBride, who really didn't have a chance. I don't think he caught a pass last year. But he's capable, and so maybe he becomes a bigger part of the maybe the running back in general becomes a bigger part. So there's different ways. You can panic all you want, or you can think you can want to panic all you want, but there's different ways to attack this, and we'll see what they do. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what they have in mind, and that's fine. That's fine. But I think there's enough playmakers. That if even without wide receiver depth, I think there's enough playmakers. If wide receiver depth doesn't develop, because you also got to, there's Perry Keys and Austin McGee and some other guys that might have a chance, to develop into a guy that's capable. So even if it doesn't develop, you still got a lot of playmakers and different. You just kind of have to, do it a different way.
Right. And I know you just mentioned, them moving Jermaine Brown over to the slot receiver position. I love that move, and I'm glad that they're doing that. And that just, gives Jermaine Brown the chance to show off that speed even more, with that, with the running back position being so deep. And almost clear to see that Dwayne McBride is going to be the number one guy toting the rock in the backfield now that Spencer Brown is gone and moved on. It was great to see Dwayne McBride get those 2 scores. I'm sure he looked great, in the scrimmage that you saw.
Oh, he's a grown man. I will say this: the one part I think I can say about the scrimmage that from his vantage or viewpoint or his performance is, it's great he scored the 2 touchdowns that they put in their notes, but the one part that I think I enjoyed most of the scrimmage from him, from watching him, was they, in every one of Coach Clark's scrimmages, and most guys do this, they do some situation work toward the end of it. And they do, goal line going in, and then they do, goal line coming out, so basically you're 99 yards away and you're trying to get the ball out, and you get it to about the 30 and then they reset if you get it out at all. Going against a number, A1 defense and A1 offense, and coming out of the end zone, I'm telling you, he has some grown man runs out of the end zone that were and they did a great job blocking, and really the defense did a pretty good job too. But in that situation, but there was one series where they got out to about the 30 in 3 plays maybe, and all runs by him, and it was just like, oh my God, he was just running through people. So that's that was kind of one moment from that just showed what he's capable of. And I really think that going into the year, there's no question that Sincere McCormick is the number 1 running back in the conference.
Yeah.
No question.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised by the end of the year that there's a question. I mean, I think this guy has a chance. This guy can, if he gets the carries that I think he's going to get, staying healthy.
Of course.
I think he has a chance to be considered in the same breath as Sincere McCormick. I really do. Even as a freshman again, he'll be a second year freshman, but even as a young guy, he is just so good, and we saw that. I mean, we saw that in a very limited chance, but having this guy, run, 20, 25, 30, 20, whatever it may be, whatever they feel like they need to give him, is going to be, we're going to have a lot of fun watching that.
Yes, I'm ready, man. Let's go. Give him the rock, man.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there's guys behind him. I mean, I think obviously, Lucius Stanley has proven himself,
oh yeah.
We haven't seen Lee Witherspoon yet, but I mean, this is a cat who had 59 touchdowns in his only year as a high school running back, and 12 times they had one call back.
Wow.
We counted for 71 touchdowns in his only, and he's probably, I mean, I don't know speed wise if he's the fast. I mean, he's known for his speed. So, you got that. He's going to be in the mix. Pollock's going to be in the mix.
Right.
Hopefully, if he stays healthy. Who am I missing? I'm missing somebody, right?
Larry Wooden too.
Larry Wooden, from what I understand, is they've moved him again. From what I understand, again, this is springtime. I think they're looking at him at on the defensive side of the ball. I'm not sure where, but I think they're looking at him to see, because the running back depth is so good. But Larry Wooden was a guy that by the end of the year, in the championship game, first off, he started against Rice, but and you got to give that kid a lot of credit, because he basically had 2 years of very few carries just because it was so, and he came in that Rice game, started, played well, and then McBride had a hamstring problem in the second half of the championship game, and it was Larry Wooden that came in next, and he had a couple really tough runs, one for a first down on, I think it was a third down run, and in fact, he was running so tough that the announcers had no idea that McBride was hurt, and they were calling him McBride. You go back and watch that game, and the 2 times he carried the ball, 2 of the times he carried the ball in the fourth quarter, both times they called him McBride. So, so that's showing that's a guy who runs tough right there. So but yeah, I mean, it starts with McBride. I mean, there's no doubt, but I think there's a lot of very good pieces at running back too that are gonna have to get some carries, and so they're good there. I mean, they're good there, and they have a great one running with the first teams right now in McBride.
Yes. Well, since we just talked about the running backs, I figured it's, very fitting that we go ahead and talk about the offensive line play. And I'm just assuming, since Dwayne McBride looked really well and others looked really well, that the offensive line had to look really well, at least in that scrimmage that you saw.
Yeah, I mean, when you bring back basically your top 7 guys,
Right.
you're not going to lose. They're not losing a bit of sleep over those guys. I think that you got some guys that you got all conference guys. And you're you're definitely a little better going in than you were last year, even though you felt really solid last year. But these guys have another year, so Kadeem Telford has proven now. He was, they didn't know where he fit last year coming in, and had to get him in a little better shape. And now he's an all conference quality guy.
Good.
I think they've got some numbers. I think some of these guys this spring that might show that they're capable. I think Chris Noble might show he's capable. He'll play tackle behind Sidney Wells. It'd be hard to get on the field for some of these guys, but I think that there's, I think they could go 8, 9 deep this year instead of 7. Now that doesn't mean 8 or 9 going to get in there, but I think they're going to have 8 or 9 guys that are capable of playing. And but those top 7 with Andrew Smith and Reichert at center, and
Right.
And just so solid at guard and tackle. Colby Ragland's all conference. Sidney Wells is all conference. I think that Matthew Traherne really is a kind of an emotional guy there that really proved himself last year. They're loaded. They're loaded. Jacoby Jones is that swing guy, and Jacoby Jones is that guy that can play the extra tight end guy when they want to get physical. And so, they look great. I can say that from yesterday, they looked really good. And now I'm sure that Richard Owens and, Cameron Blankenship and Bill Clark and Brady and Coach Vincent, I think they're going to find some flaws, but that's what they do. But
Right.
They're good. They're good up there, and they're going to be real good up there their time. So there's no, like I say, you don't lose any sleep over those guys.
Good. That's great to hear, especially going up against a really quality defensive line that that we feel that UAB is going to have this year, as always under Clark too. So that's great to hear about the offensive line play. Now, the last position we hadn't talked about on the offensive side of the ball is quarterback play. And I will say, Steve, looking at the official statement from UAB off of the first scrimmage, there were five interceptions. Yeah, Mac McWilliams had 2 interceptions. Will Bowler, Dajon Turner, and Kelly Sanders each had 1. So there were 5 interceptions thrown in this first scrimmage during spring practice. Now I don't want to overreact because like we've said before, it's just the first scrimmage, so don't overreact to anything. But can you talk a little bit about the quarterback play that you saw during the first scrimmage?
Well, I think it's solid. Okay. and again, I'm not a believer in it's always the quarterback's fault. I'm really not. And the other thing too is you're talking about and I'm not making excuses here because you can't turn the ball over. You just can't. But you're talking about a scrimmage, which is probably 150 plays.
Right.
Where in a ball game, you're going to probably snap the ball, depending on what type of tempo you play, you're going to snap the ball probably in between 50 and 80 times a game. So you're talking about double, triple the plays, depending on what your tempo is.
Right.
So there's a lot more plays, so there's a lot more, but you can't turn the ball over. But I thought the quarterbacks were solid. I thought and I think they are solid. I think Tyler. This is Tyler Johnson's team, and he's going to do what he does, and he's going to make a mistake every now and again, but he's going to make some big throws too.
Right.
I think they had, I don't know what the final touchdown passes were, but I think they threw 4 or 5. I mean, I think I just off the top of my head.
It was 5, yeah.
Okay, so 5. So they had some good moments, and part of that is good news, bad news is you talk about they threw 5 interceptions and you don't like that, but it's also a defense that came up with 5 interceptions. So
yeah, true.
so that's good. But I do think one thing I was pleased with is the first time I got a chance to see him. I really thought that I really enjoyed watching Dylan Hopkins. I mean, because last year obviously he didn't really get a chance. He was hurt all year and sick and different things, and just was a non-factor. And I thought he looked really good physically.
Right.
And I thought he's when he was throwing the ball, whether it be in 7-on-7 beforehand or in the scrimmage, I thought he threw the ball well and played well. So was happy to see that. And I think Lucero was solid, and so I think you have 3 quarterbacks that you can feel comfortable with now. And I think there's still got to be progression by all 3. I mean, there's but we're still early in spring, or we're still in spring.
Yeah.
And there's got to be progression in all 3. But I think the biggest thing that I came away with from just seeing yesterday's scrimmage was I was happy with to see where Hopkins was, because
Yes.
that was the one thing you just didn't really know because you didn't see him last year. I mean, he just didn't get his body, whether it was injuries or illness, he just didn't get a chance. And so,
Right.
So it was good to see that he's back out there. And, I mean, this is a guy that quarterbacked him into the championship game,
Yeah.
in 19. And he is, in my opinion, in my view, he is so much better now than he was then.
Great.
So he's made strides. I mean, he's made strides, and so, I think they're okay. I mean, I think they're okay. Corey. I know some people panic and think why, but I think they're okay at quarterback. I do.
Well, that's I was going to interject real quick. That's great to hear about Hopkins because, like you said, we didn't get to see him at all last year. It was Johnston, and then when Johnston got hurt, it was Lucero. But you go back to the 19 season, like you just said, Steve. Hopkins helped lead UAB to that championship game, and we saw glimpses of greatness. You go back to that Louisiana Tech game. He had a couple key passes in that game to help us get over Tech, and that's just great to hear because we really didn't hear hardly anything about him last year. But I mean, that's just because with illness and the craziness of the 2020 season, we just didn't get to see Hopkins on the field. But that is great to hear that it seems that whether it be Hopkins or Lucero, that of course, as you just mentioned earlier, this is Johnston's team, but it's great to have those 2 guys right behind them if needed.
Yeah, I mean, and especially you just don't know. Tyler Johnson's had some, injury issues over his career, obviously, and most guys have,
Right.
and so you can't go into the season, thinking you don't have another guy behind anybody. And I'm not talking about just quarterback. I mean, you don't want to go into the season thinking, hey, this guy's great, but boy, if he gets hurt, we're dead. I mean, you want to say, well, this guy's great, but hey, if something happens, because this is football,
Right.
then we got this guy or that guy or the other guy ready. So, I think they'll be fine at quarterback no matter what. Obviously, Tyler Johnson's a starter for a reason.
Right.
Obviously, if he were to go down for some reason during the season, it's the next guy's not going to be quite as good because Tyler Johnson beat him out. But that doesn't mean that you can't keep, that doesn't mean you can't tailor what you do to his strengths and just move on. So, I think one thing that Dylan Hopkins gives you that Lucero doesn't is the ability to run.
Right.
So, and I think, like I said, I thought he looked good physically. I'm not sure what his problem was last year. I think he might have had a foot injury, or I don't really know.
Yeah.
But he looked good, and he looked like he's healthy. And from what I understand, he is. And so, I came away feeling good about the quarterback situation, even though there was, that's a lot of interceptions. But I don't know, just watching it where I was, I don't know how much of that was on them. There was, I mean, it's hard. It's hard. A lot of times we blame, we'll just blame, we'll say, well, he shouldn't have thrown the ball there. There was a case like, in the Louisiana Tech game last year, and I don't know for sure where the throw was supposed to be, but the one that was returned for a touchdown after the lateral, it looked to me like Swapshire didn't get to his spot.
Yeah.
Okay, and Lucero throws it, goes right to the that cat who had 2 interceptions, whatever his name was. It was a player of the week, and he intercepts his laterals it going down, and it's a touchdown. And of course everybody's like, well, Lucero shouldn't have thrown the ball. Well, maybe Shropshire should have been there. I mean, I don't know what the coaches know, and the coaches know what the play is, and in the film, I'm sure they made sure to tell who they knew whose fault was. But
Right.
my point is, we don't always know who was supposed to be where, and who didn't, who got caught up. I mean, I go back to that Tennessee game in 19 when Tyler Johnson threw the interception on the first play of the game. Well, he makes a throw to the spot he was supposed to make a throw to. Hayden Pittman didn't get there. Now, Hayden Pittman didn't get there because the guy was basically tackling him 5 yards, and they didn't make the call. And so, yeah, that's a bad play. But you know what? If they throw the flag there, which they should have, then
it's a different conversation.
It's a different conversation. And so it's not always cut and dried as like it's just the quarterback's fault. Now, a quarterback's got to have big shoulders, and they've got to take, that on, certainly publicly, but, so we'll see. But again, I guess all that long-winded stuff to say that I think they're going to be solid at quarterback, and I don't have a worry about that right now.
Well, good to hear. I guess we'll go ahead and switch over to the defensive side of the ball, and I guess we can just go ahead and talk about the cornerbacks. Again, from the official statement from UAB, redshirt freshman cornerback Mac McWilliams had 2 interceptions, and Will Bowler, Dajon Turner, and Kelly Sanders each had 1. So they were able to pick off the UAB offense 5 times. Steve, you want to talk a little bit about the cornerback? Now, I know, Starling Thomas didn't get to play last year due to the injury. Are you able to say if you saw Starling Thomas out there any?
Starling Thomas is back out. Yeah, he's practicing this spring. I think he's limited in some sense in some cases, but I think he's back out there, and they're really good at corner. I mean, yeah, they lost a great cornerback in Bronte Harris, but obviously TD Marshall is a guy that's going to get some NFL looks if he has a season he's capable of. And, Mac McWilliams, with 2 picks yesterday, and he's a guy who got a little time last year. He got, Randy Moss against South Alabama for a touchdown, but he learned, I think he's going to be solid. I think Keandre Swoops has a chance to be, really good. CD Daniels, Devondre Bynum, Troy Young, who we talked about earlier, that was with safety. I think he's got a chance to be really good. So they're deep and solid there. And yes, I expect Starling Thomas to be right in that mix once fall starts, because he is back out and he is playing. I just think they have to take a little easy with him at times, but at times they don't. So they're good there. They're real good there.
Good. Great to hear. I guess we can talk about the defensive line. Anything surprising that you saw, or was it just the same old nasty defensive line that we've seen the past few years with Clark?
Well, they're darn good. Yeah. I mean, I think that, Kelly Sanders, kind of jumped out physically to me. That just seeing him, I mean, I think he's a guy who I think is poised to have really step up and really have a good season. Justin Thomas, the LSU transfer, was my first time actually seeing him on the field. Holy Toledo's that guy good, quick, strong. Alex Wright is just continuing to develop. I think Alex Wright's the kind of guy that's he's going to be a hands on the ground type guy at times. He's going to be stand up on the edge at times.
Mm-hmm.
He's a grown man, and this is his third season now, and I think he's really poised to have a good year. And they're so good inside him. There's so much depth there, with Fish McWilliams, with Tony Fair. I think Isaiah Forte is a guy that we're going to look at this year. Who was junior college guy. They actually was a guy that was going to come to UAB out of high school, but he had to end up at junior college. He's from Montgomery and had some injury problems last year and didn't get a chance to get out there. But I think he's a guy that we're going to see this year. I think Antonio Moultrie is I really thought last year he was an all conference guy. Yeah. And he might have got mentioned all conference, but I thought last year he had a sensational year, and so they're loaded up front, and again I think Justin Thomas has a chance to be special, I mean he really does, but I think Kelly Sanders has a chance to be special, and I think there's just a lot of guys up there, and they still have on their edge position, they still have the big guys that they have up there, but they still have the Nakia Eason and Jalen Raham and those speed and Kyle Harrell on the speed guys on the outside there that they can mix things up. So I think you're going to see a lot of I think you're going to see some different things from them, but they're going to be solid. I mean, they're going to be numbers wise. I can't imagine anybody in the conference having more numbers than UAB has up front.
Good, and especially the depth that UAB has on the line.
It's tremendous. I mean, you don't miss a step. I mean, you really don't. I mean, you got guys like, I think Kevin Penn could be a solid player this year, but I don't know how much time he's going to get, for example. And that's just an example. And Forte's, kind of the same thing. I mean, and Michael Fairbanks. I mean, I think these guys are solid players. It's just hard to figure out, how you going to play them, because you just have a lot of guys up there, which is that's a good problem to have. And you're not going to change that. Is. You'll be fresh and good, I mean, no doubt.
Right. And I guess last but not least, we can kind of talk about the linebackers. You mentioned Noah Wilder earlier. Anybody else kind of surprise you? Or, we off the top, we mentioned, they moved Mo from linebacker to safety. Anything else you can talk about him that you saw from the linebackers?
I tell you, two guys that I really liked yesterday that I think are critical to the depth at the linebacker position is Deshaun Oliver and Will Connor. I think both those guys had, I mean, from my point of view, watching, obviously watching film might have said something different, but I really think that Deshaun Oliver was at Ramsey High School's state championship team, was one of the key players, was more of a safety on that team. But he's had some injury problems, since he's been at UAB, and I think he's ready to really play a role. I thought he ran around and made some plays yesterday. I think Will Connor's kind of the same thing. Will Connor played at Thompson High School and, came in as a pretty highly regarded guy and just hadn't had a chance really to get on the field because of some numbers. But I think he's a guy who I liked yesterday, and I think he has a chance to be a rotation guy that they really need. The transfer from West Virginia, Charlie Benton, who I hear really good things about, was not able to play yesterday. Just a minor, he's got minor. He just wasn't able to play yesterday. I think he's practiced with them, and from what I heard, has been really solid, and they're really excited about him. I think he's a guy, just by talking to some people about him in high school in West Virginia, this guy's got a really good speed, is sideline to sideline, really speed guy, kind of like Chris Mole, and So I'm really excited to get a chance to see him at some point. He's fine, physically. He's just a little banged up. So didn't get a chance to see him Saturday, but I know they're really excited about him. So they need to figure out some numbers there, and that's something that they're going to do. I mean, I think there's some other guys in the roster that they like too, and but again, I thought Deshaun Oliver and Will Connor, I thought they took a step forward, Saturday at times, and so that's kind of a, if you pick a position that you kind of are waiting to see, kind of like receiver on offense, I think inside linebacker is probably that position.
Okay.
Just because you don't know what the we don't know as UAB fans and people who follow UAB, we don't know Charlie Benton.
Right.
We haven't seen him on the field. Now we know he just transferred from West Virginia, and we know there's supposed to be good thing. He's a good player,
right.
But we don't really know him. So we until we see it, now we know what Noah Wilder's capable of. We knew what Chris Moll was capable of. So it's just going to be a wait and see on that. But I think I think he's going to be a positive player, and I think those other guys are going to be able to play too. And I think you're going to have a little battle for the starters there. And I think I would include Noah Wilder in that battle. I mean, I don't think anybody's set right there, and it's going to be fun to watch when at the end of at the conclusion of spring and then and then during fall camp.
Yes, definitely. And I guess anything on special teams that you noticed, Steve?
Yeah, you didn't see much, but I mean, you got to feel so good. I mean, Nick Vogel Jr.
Right.
Matt Quinn was so good last year.
He was.
And so you'll feel real solid about him. Kyle Greenwell has just progressed every year, and he's a senior, and so you feel really solid about him. The returners. You just don't know right now. You don't see that in scrimmages, and you really don't see that much. There's not a whole lot of live stuff, but
right.
I think Keandre Swoops is a guy who could be a return guy for him. I think Ryan Davis is a guy who could be a punt returner for him. I think they've got some guys. T.D. Marshall can return kicks. Damian Miller. In high school, I think it was Damian. One of the Miller. I think it was Damian that was a big time kick returner in high school. Starling Thomas was a big time kick returner. So I think you have a lot of pieces there. I think Jermaine Brown could be a guy returning kicks. So I think you have some pieces to be some pretty good guys, that back to returning. It's just, it's going to be hard. That's something you're not going to really see to the season because they're not going to do, they're not going to really return kicks in the spring game either. So, you're not really going to be able to see that. But as far as specialists go, I mean, I think Kyle Greenwell, the combination of Kyle Greenwell and Matt Quinn is certainly toward the top of Conference USA. And Conference USA always has pretty good kickers and punters. I mean, it's just been, it's been a lot of good, solid, very good kickers and punters in, this conference. So I think both those guys have proven to be, toward the top, of coming in will be considered two of the top guys in the conference. So, but you didn't get, obviously you don't see a lot of that yesterday. I thought just in the, when they were just practicing and doing some stuff, I thought Greenwell really kicked the ball well. And I don't remember the numbers of what, Matt Quinn got to kick some. Mm-hmm. I think he made most of them, I think. But he, again, those guys are proven.
Oh,
I mean, those guys are proven. And so that, I feel really good about those guys coming in.
Well, great. I had to ask you about that because, our buddy Trey Ragland would get on to us if we didn't talk about the special teams.
Yeah. Well, hey, there's no Trey Raglands out there, but, they can only, but no, Trey would be able to tell you, more what, whether those, what kind of specialists those guys are. But, and hey, Trey's one of those guys I'm talking about of great, really, really solid, great punters and kickers that they've had over the years. I mean, it's amazing when you sit there and kind of go back and look at it. How many really I mean, going back to Jake Arians
Yeah.
and, going back to guys back then, and then, Swayze Waters and Ty Long, who obviously is in the NFL, and,
Right.
Hunter Mullins and Trey, and, you just a lot of really good, punters and kickers. And these two guys fit right into that.
Definitely. Well, guys, UAB did announce that the spring game is going to be at Legion Field on Saturday, April the 10th at 1 p.m. These tickets are actually going to be complimentary thanks to Pepsi sponsoring the event. So definitely make sure and make your plans to get out to the Old Gray Lady one last time on April the 10th and get to see these guys in the green and gold one last time at Legion Field. I'm definitely looking forward to that. Very quickly before we get out, I did want to hit on some basketball notes, Steve. We had a bunch of people elect to enter the transfer portal. Simeon Kirkland, Jalen Benjamin, Kasim Nicholson, and a couple others did announce their intent to enter the portal, and they entered the transfer portal. But Andy Kennedy already working his magic, man. Forward KJ Buffin out of Ole Miss, 6'7". I mean, Jamal Johnson from Auburn. I mean, already getting 2 SEC transfers into. They're going to be playing in Bartow Arena next year. That's just a great sign of things to come. And it wouldn't surprise me if we hear some news in the next couple of days of maybe having another transfer come in.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think we'll hear something fairly soon about, whoever the next guy is. But, Buffin, is not only 6'7", he's 230, and so he's a big, physical guy. And not only the SEC transfers or SEC starter transfers,
Right.
And Jamal Johnson gives you that outside shooting that you need. And there'll be some others, but that's a nice start. And,
Yes.
We'll see what there's still some work to be done, but you definitely have a lot of confidence in what Andy Kennedy and his staff are going to bring in, and this is going to be I think it's going to be a special year next year once he gets this roster together, and I sure hope that they can open up Bartow again and we could have that place jumping,
Yes.
I mean, it sure would be nice for everybody. I mean, for every team and every program, it would be nice to at least get back, a little bit to the old times, I guess you want to say. Do it smart, but but it would be nice to, once he builds this roster. I think it's going to be a special roster and potentially a special season.
Yes, I agree with you there, Steve. Now, guys, I just setting up what the show is going to look like the next couple weeks. We're going to definitely look to try to do another episode before the spring game, just to, let Steve tell us what's going on with spring practice. But also after the spring game, we're going to try to do like an instant reaction recap to what we saw the spring game. Steve and David Crane, they're actually going to be on the radio for the spring game. That's awesome. I just saw that not too long ago, so that's going to be great. But yeah, we've got those, for you to look forward to. But definitely, I want to just tell you guys, we definitely appreciate you guys week in and week out listening to us and sharing us on Twitter and Facebook and on the internet to all the Blazer fans. But I definitely want to just encourage you, if you haven't subscribed to us on a platform, please subscribe to us. That way you don't have to worry about going out and downloading each episode. It just goes automatically to your device. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Podbean. We're on just a bunch of different Google Podcasts, a bunch of different platforms that, you just choose one and subscribe to us. And that way you don't even have to worry about going to find our new episode. It automatically comes straight to your device. That would, help you out and help us out, and just help us grow this podcast, because Steve and I, we love doing it. And also thank you guys for helping us to get over 300 followers on Twitter and Facebook. That was a awesome little milestone for us to finally get over 300, but we look to grow even more than that. But just thank you guys for all that you do. If you're not following us on Twitter, follow us at twitter.com/BlazerPod. But we'll see you guys next time. You guys be safe out there and go Blazers.